Welcome to the Positively Joyful Productivity Show, where joy isn't a reward for productivity, it's the secret ingredient. I'm your host, Nicole Louise, coach, wife, and dog mom. This is a no-kid zone by design, created for women who are child-free, childless, or an empty nester embracing your next chapter. You all belong here. Each week, you'll hear inspiring stories from women around the world and learn tools, mindset shifts, and practical strategies for living a joyful life. You'll also discover the science behind why focusing on joy fuels focus, motivation, and lasting productivity. Let's get inspired, get organized, and create a life full of freedom, focus, and joy. Okay, so welcome to the Positively Joyful Productivity Show. I am really excited for today's guest, Angela Porrelli. Welcome, Angela.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Absolutely. So, for my listeners, Angela's story is going to knock your socks off today. She is a powerhouse woman. She is a real estate agent, a coach, a CEO, and you are going to just love her story. So, Angela, you started out when your kids were little, you were in real estate,
Mhm.
and I want to kind of jump into your story right away because it's so empowering and just I know my audience is going to love it. So you started in real estate when your kids were little and you kind of built your business around your family as many women do. And then when they got older, you're like, "You know what? It's my turn." And so tell us your story. Tell us about that experience. And you had something interesting happen that was like, it could have gone one of two ways. It could have like stopped you in your tracks, but you were like, nope, it kind of lit a fire under you, and here you are. So take us through your story.
For sure, I'd be happy to. Yeah, so like you said, my kids had just gotten into school full time, and I knew that I didn't want to stay home the whole time. I'd stayed home with them actually up until they started in school. I wanted to do something as far as getting some independence and doing something for myself. At the same time, I wanted to still have the opportunity to be there for them. And I'd always been curious about real estate. So that's when I went and got my books, did my licensing, and jumped into it. Also, because I knew that I could control the narrative behind it a little bit. I could really, keep it a little bit slower when they were young, when they really needed a lot of my help. And down the road, I had the potential to turn it into a much more, ambitious career.
Mm-hmm.
So that was one of the reasons that I chose real estate. And it naturally just kind of took off for me. I had a lot of good partnerships, a lot of good opportunities. And so it was a really good business right from the start. But like you said, I did. I always planned in the family stuff first, worked around there, and then did business around that.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, when my kids were older, they were just kind of wrapping up, high school, leaving, leaving home because they're 1 year apart in school. So everything kind of happened at the same time. It was really fast.
Yeah.
Um, and I remember thinking, I'm like, okay, I've just kind of let this business evolve on its own. I've really enjoyed it and I have a solid business. But I was like, if I really put my mind to this and I make a business plan, I want to see what I can do with this now is really just putting it at the forefront and treating it as a career. Now
Mm-hmm.
that the kids were doing their own thing. So I'm also not a terribly aggressive person. So in the office, I come across maybe as a little bit quieter in the office, a little bit, more soft-spoken than the traditional real estate agent that can be very, very extroverted.
Yes.
Um, so I sat down with one of the trainers at the brokerage. I'd built a business plan for myself. I was super excited about it. This first time I had gone through, built out all sorts of goals. I'd gone back, I'd learned how to reverse engineer them, set up action steps. And I was like, okay, if I actually apply this, I really think that I can almost double my business in a year. So I sat down with him, presented it, and I can remember sitting there because the way that office is set up is was almost like a fishbowl boardroom. It's right at the front door. It's right outside the desk where the main girl sits,
Mm-hmm.
zero soundproofing. And that's where we went to review this business plan. So
Okay.
anybody around walking by could see that we were doing what we were talking about, all that kind of stuff.
Right.
And this particular trainer, he's sitting there listening. And so I'm excited, showing him everything that I planned and what I want to do.
Mm-hmm.
He just kind of leaned back and looks at me, didn't say anything for a minute. And then he just crossed his arms and kind of chuckled. And he's like, that's a little ambitious. He's like, I think you need to scale it back.
Are you serious?
Yes.
Oh
Yeah,
my
I just
God.
went like, at first I was a little bit shocked, a little bit embarrassed, all those feelings that we have originally.
Oh
Then
yeah, yeah,
you kind of watch to see, okay, who's looking, who heard this? Like, is
right.
this too much? Yeah. So it threw me for a bit of a loop, but it didn't throw me too terribly long. It kind of hits you, and then I had that flip reaction, like you were talking about there, and I just went, no. I'm going to follow through on this. I believe I can do it. And more than ever now, I want to prove that this can actually work and that I
Mhm.
can prove him wrong.
I
So,
love it.
yeah. So that's what I did. It actually made me just kind of double down, not just double down on the plan, but really double down on how I was going to execute this. I know that you are really good as far as the time management, things like that. Double down on all these little details to make sure it was going to happen.
Hmm.
And I was like, I'm just going to be consistent. I'm going to follow through my plan for a year and see what happens. And I actually beat the goal that I had set. So that was a really good feeling. It was fun.
Yay. That's amazing. I just the first time you told me this story, I was like, "Oh my gosh, my audience is going to love this." And for a few reasons. For the fact that, you're a woman and like you said, you're kind of quiet and not as outgoing as some other people. I myself am very much like that, so I completely relate to how that is and how you must have been feeling. And I'm sure my audience is too. I think as women, especially in male-dominated fields, it can be really intimidating. And the fact that you took that and just flipped it and were like, hell no, I know I can do this, and you did it.
Yeah.
I'm so in love with this story.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, sometimes stubbornness pays off, hey?
Yes, absolutely.
A little bit
Absolutely.
of drive, yeah.
Yeah. But, and I think, in addition to that, so my audience is primarily women who are, aren't raising kids or who are empty nesters themselves. I myself don't have children, and so I don't have that experience of raising kids and trying to like do routines and meal prepping around raising kids. It's a very different thing. And
Mhm.
so I feel like so many women can relate to your story in that aspect too, of like, okay, the kids are gone, like, now what? And I've spoken to other women who are empty nesters, and they kind of, when the kids like fly the coop, so to speak, they can kind of feel this sense of like loneliness or lost. And so, were you feeling any of those things at that point?
You know what? It actually really surprised me because I always thought that I would be okay, to see them go. I didn't think it would bother me that way. I don't tend to have extreme emotional reactions to things.
Okay.
And so my daughter, she's the oldest, and I remember dropping her off at university in a town that's only like just over 2 hours away from us, so not terribly far.
Yeah.
I dropped her off, and it was the minute I went to walk out of her dorm room, I just burst into tears. And it is so unlike me. I was like, okay, must have just been the first one. So then the next year, when I went to do it with my son in Vancouver, same thing. And it was just like it was this involuntary reaction. And it's just like a little piece of you has been ripped out. There's just something so permanent about it, realizing that they're now setting out their own life, their own independence. And I don't know if everybody has experienced this, but one of the things that I found that was the biggest surprise to me is it's like you have a moment of flashback. You see everything across their life in a short period of time. And maybe it's hard as a working mom too. I'm sure it's hard for anybody, even if you're a stay-at-home. But also you see all those little things of what if I would have done differently? Did I do this right? Did I do that wrong? And you beat yourself up for, maybe if you miss something. And it's not, I don't know. It's that moment where you just kind of go, "Oh shoot, I've had my chance to raise them and like this is it." It was the most surreal thing that I've ever experienced. I've never experienced anything like it before or again. But
Yeah.
it happened with both of them and really really unexpectedly. Like I thought I could control it the second time because I the first, but it does. It hits you really hard for a little bit after. And then it takes some adjusting, to get used to having them out of the house and
Yeah.
I mean, having the career definitely helps because you can kind of stay busy and keep doing things like that. But it takes a little bit of adjustment, even when you think that you're braced for it. It's a bit of a hit. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I can imagine. And again, in other women that I've spoken with, I hear snippets of that as well. So, yeah. And so then from that, you were like, okay, so this is my time. And then you took it and ran with it. So, through this process of building your business, you had tried some different strategies and tested kind of what worked and what didn't work for you. And so, I really love that because not all tools are going to work for all women. Like, we're all unique individuals. We all have our unique stories, and our brains are all so different. And so I would love to hear from you. What is your go-to management tool?
Mm. I actually love that part that you said there as far as how we all function so differently. Because that's one of the things I really talk to as far as the agents that I coach as well. Because I said, just because something works for me doesn't mean it's going to work specifically for you. We all do have to find our elements of, how it's going to come together.
Mhm.
For myself, one of the pieces that I really like is creating your ideal calendar.
Mm,
So really going in to your week and saying, if I could work in my ideal situation, what is it going to look like? So for me, that's an early morning, getting up, going to the gym, getting all of my lead generation, my prospecting done in the morning, time blocking that all in. So that's another piece
mhm.
is the time blocking, making sure that I'm using all of the do not disturb features when I'm in those moments. Tools like educating people ahead of time or having it in my emails and my correspondence about what time I will respond, setting those expectations ahead of time,
Mm,
but creating that ideal calendar so that when all the calls and the unexpected activities come in, you already have a set element in your head and in front of you where you know that you want to plug those in. They don't just start to overwhelm and take over your day and derail you from all of the tasks that you have to do in
mhm.
order to move your business forward. So when you've got that created, I don't know, it's always been a tool that just kind of frees up mental space for me, as well as just create such clarity on where I'm going to drop the appointments in. So the ideal calendar would be a big one for me, time blocking, and then just really making sure that I'm not jumping from task to task, that I'm using the do not disturb functions. And when I'm in a time block to do my lead generation, that's what I do. It's not
Mhm.
an option to hop out because somebody texted me or something. It's just you focus, you get that done, and then you go to the next thing. So those would probably be my biggest pieces. And I mean, there's lots of little things in there as we go, as far as how we get priorities organized and pick what's going to be the top priority and things like that. But those are the simple ones that can really kind of adjust the focus for the day, I feel.
Yeah. And I think those are so important, the time blocking and using those do not disturb functions.
Hmm.
I can speak to the opposite of that. So I'm a teacher by day, and being a teacher, you are constantly interrupted. And I can tell you, my brain is literally in 1,000 directions at any
Right?
given moment. And yeah, and so my business, when I'm working on business things, it's it's almost like my brain doesn't know what to do because it's quiet and I'm not being interrupted. It's like, wait a minute, nobody's asking me for a drink or to tie their shoe or this or that. And it's like, oh my gosh, like I really don't know what to do.
Yeah.
However, it's so important, when you are working on something important and something that has a deadline, you really do have to focus and you have to set those boundaries. And I love that you said that, you set those expectations with others that you're working with. I think that's brilliant, because other people need to know, hey,
Mhm.
Angela's working now. We cannot disturb her. So good for you for doing that. I think that's huge, again, to set those expectations.
Well, and it's interesting too, because I think they actually appreciate it as well. So even for myself on the client side, so if a client messages me, if I set that expectation ahead of time that every time they message me, I'm going to respond instantly,
Mhm.
that becomes their norm. And then they find it weird when I don't. But if they know ahead of time that my mornings are blocked off for prospecting, for lead generation, getting the office work done, and that I'll be checking my phone at whatever time in order to respond, it creates a little bit of sense of peace in them as well. So they know they can message me anytime. They
Mhm.
just know that they'll get a response later on. So it gives them peace of mind too when I'm not responding right away because they know when to expect it.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, that's a great point. And again, I think as women, sometimes we can struggle with setting boundaries, and that's
Hmm.
ultimately what you're doing is setting a boundary. And it's a perfect example of how setting a boundary is a good thing and it's a positive thing. I think that
Hmm.
boundary can sometimes have that negative connotation to it, and people are like, "Oh, I can't set a boundary because I don't want to upset anyone." But when you don't set a boundary, the opposite actually happen, people actually are
Hmm.
confused and don't know what to expect. And so it creates more work and frustration and confusion than, just setting that boundary from the start. So that's a great
I
lesson.
agree. Yeah, that's the biggest shift in mindset, isn't it? Because
Yeah.
we're afraid that if we set that boundary, people are going to take it as rude. But in reality, it creates more freedom for them as well, because it just opens that door of understanding where we're coming from. So,
Yeah, absolutely. So, all right. So I wanted to circle back a little bit to your story. And since we're on kind of like the speaking of women, specifically about women, I just have to touch on the fact that when you brought your business plan to the trainer at work and you mentioned I just have to touch on that because as a fellow woman who is also quiet and I have worked in, even though I'm a teacher, I started my teaching career in an alternative school, which is primarily men.
mhm.
And so I'm very familiar with that good old boy, atmosphere. And I feel like, and I don't know if you have experienced this as well, but I feel like men can look at us like, again, we're quiet and not outspoken and oh, she'll just do whatever and they just don't take us seriously. And I get the sense that maybe that's what was happening in your situation. Would you agree with that?
Oh, I definitely agree with that. And the setting that I was in then, I've since removed myself from that particular setting, but
Good.
that particular setting, a lot of the leadership was kind of that old boys club. You know
Mhm.
what I mean? Where it was just kind of that mentality. And unless you were the squeaky wheel or really loud or one of the guys, yeah, it was just kind of, there wasn't anything necessarily, I would say, discriminatory at all.
Right.
But it was just, you're just kind of, yeah, just brushed aside. You know what I mean? And it was that element too where I think there was no, what is the word there? There was no concept as to how to even encourage some of us as women who might have been a little bit quieter and weren't making all the noise, how to actually like grow our businesses. There's no interest in kind of helping with that. But yeah, the particular trainer that we had, even that gentleman, he wasn't even producing anymore. So it's really bizarre when you think that you have a trainer in an industry when the trainer isn't doing what they're trying to train the agents to do. So
Right.
that on top of it, just kind of having that old boys mentality, having it come from somebody who wasn't doing what I was proposing to
Hmm.
do, it was very dismissive. And I think that was the slap in the face, they come across as saying like, oh, they care, like, oh, they've got your back, everything else, until it came to that little bit of let's get some support where you actually say that you want to give support. And it was just the opposite. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Oh,
yeah.
so from that experience, so tell my listeners, so kind of you've evolved from that and you
Mhm.
learned and you're kicking ass. Like, let's just put it out there. So, you are running your real estate agency, you coach other real estate agents, you've got your own business. So, tell us how this all turned out for you. Where are you at today, Angela?
It was the best thing for me. Honestly, I would say it was a wake-up call because I think that I had been just kind of, like I said, going with the flow in my business. So
Hmm.
when I realized at that point that I didn't have the support where I was, that I was kind of in the wrong environment where it was the old boys mentality, that it was time for me to get out and it was time for me to move on. So I did. I switched companies I was with. I found a company that was very supportive, man, woman, didn't matter.
Mhm.
Very proactive as far as encouraging you to grow and learn and opportunities for that. And I continued to pursue my own growth path as well. And I don't think it would have happened to the same effect if I wouldn't have had that, because it was just such a moment that I remember so vividly, like you put it so well. It just lit a fire in me that I don't necessarily know. I'm sure it would have come eventually, but maybe not to the same extreme. So I'm very thankful. It kickstarted everything that way, and it made me take true ownership of my business. Instead of just feeling like I was an agent working for a brokerage, I stepped into being that CEO, not just of my own personal business as a real estate agent, but in expanding it, starting to run a team, starting to diversify out into coaching, creating digital courses and things like that. So it just opened up a world of possibilities and
Mhm.
was incredibly empowering, which I
Yeah.
love. I love looking back on that and going, yeah, that was good. That was such a good experience to learn from.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that you've put that positive spin on it. I know I was kind of like picking at it a little bit, but but I think, again, you've put that positive spin on it and you've learned from that and
Yeah.
you've grown so much.
Hmm.
And I just love that. I look back on my own life and there have been similar things, and I can see those moments where same thing, it lit a fire under me and I'm like, nope, I'm going to prove you wrong.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I love that. Um, all right. So, I just have one more question. Oh, that was the other thing. So, you are now one of the top three agents. Do I have that correct?
Top 3% as far as the brokerage goes. So our brokerage, it's a worldwide brokerage actually, and they have an element where they track like by ends and volume and everything, but then they have a program called being an icon agent. And so there's a certain production level that you have to reach and maintain. So I've done that every year that I've been with this brokerage and maintained that. I've stayed within the top 50, sometimes up in that top 30 range of how many ends I'm doing by number of agents in the country in Canada. And we've got about 8,000 agents here. So staying in that top 50 to 100 of the agents in Canada is nice. But
Mhm.
yeah, it's really just propelled the business to a different level.
Yeah, that's so incredible, so exciting.
Thank you.
And again, so for my listeners out there, so if you are a mom and your kids have flown the coop and you're kind of like in that what do I do now zone, listen to Angela's story. Like you are so inspiring to so many women and like you're a rock star, you're a powerhouse, you're just an amazing role model for all of us. So thank you for sharing your story today.
Thank you. No, I appreciate the opportunity. And I think the other thing that I love to point out is that as much as people hear the big stories on the end,
Mhm.
is that like I said, I'm not a big personality otherwise. I'm consistent. And that is where the piece comes in. If you will be consistent, you will outperform other people that are maybe explosive or maybe very flashy or, have some other elements. But that consistency and just that drive pays off over time. And I firmly believe that anyone can do it when you find your dream of what you want to do and you become consistent with it and you stick with it, that you can make it happen. And it's phenomenal how much that stuff adds up over time.
Yeah. Oh, what a great nugget of expertise from you. So thank you. Great advice. So I just have one final question for
Yeah.
you. So, since this is the Positively Joyful Productivity Show, we focus on aligning with joy over here. So, I
Uh,
would love to know, Angela, what is one thing that you do for yourself that brings you joy?
you know what? It's kind of funny. I started this, I guess, just over a year ago. I always have a coach of my own as well. It's one of the things that I value a lot is I always keep a coach in my own life, work, personal, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And the one coach challenged me. He knows I love the fitness, workout, nutrition side. If I was not in real estate, 100%, that's the world I would be in. I
Yeah.
thoroughly enjoy it. But what I found there is that even as I'm doing that, like I do that every morning, but I found that has almost become more of a training accountability role as well, because I've had other girls come to start to join me. I'm planning the workouts, I'm doing all that kind of stuff, doing
Mm.
accountability there. So he's like, okay, maybe you enjoy that. He goes, but aside from that, he goes, what do you do for yourself? He's like, that doesn't allow or make you be responsible for anybody else. He goes, that you can just go and have fun and experience joy. And it actually completely caught me off guard. I was like,
Mhm.
I don't know. So I started to explore a few different options. I'm like, okay, what did I want to do as a kid? Or what did I really enjoy doing as a kid?
Yeah.
And of all the things, I went and started taking jujitsu. So I'm almost 50, started jujitsu for
I
the heck of it.
love that.
Yeah, I absolutely love it. It is so fun. I can show up. I'm not the one responsible for setting anything up. I'm joining the class, I'm doing what I'm told, but it's just, I have a blast there every time. It just
Mhm.
disappears so quickly the time that I'm there. And that's, yeah, one of the things I just do for myself now for joy. There's no extra element of planning for anybody else or accountability. It's just, it's a lot of fun.
That sounds like a lot of fun and
Yeah.
good for you. Like that's such a badass thing to do. I love that.
It's hilarious because we were visiting my grandma. She's 98 on Easter, and I had my son with me who's
Uh-huh.
24. And my grandma said, "So what have you been doing for fun?" And I wasn't really thinking about it. And I was like, "What have I been doing for fun?" And my son pops up and he goes, "She beats people up." I was like, "What?" I was like, "Oh, jujitsu." So I had to explain to my grandma what he meant. She's like, "What?" It was pretty cute, but
That is,
yeah.
that's a great story.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good. Oh, jujitsu. And again, so I usually just end there, but I think like you're bringing up so many amazing points. Um, Finding what brings you joy. Like
Yes.
I remember when I started this, it actually started with a friend of mine. Her therapist asked her like, when was the last time you felt joy? And
Mhm.
so that like always stuck in the back of my head. And that's honestly where this positively joyful productivity came from. Um, because I feel like it stopped me in my tracks. And I'm like, oh my,
Mm.
like when was the last time I felt joy? And I think it does stop so many of us and we don't think about it. We don't realize it. And so, yeah, so that's part of my mission is to bring more joy into
Totally.
people's lives. But
Did you find too, when you started to reflect more and think about it, that you started to notice it more often? Because
yeah,
now I find and I experience joy so much more current, like regularly throughout the day. It doesn't just have to be jujitsu. That's just kind of my extra fun thing that I do.
yeah,
But like one of the craziest little things is that, oh geez, I'm terrible with plants. I've got one here behind me that's surviving for now. But for
yep.
the most part, a plant enters my house and it doesn't last very long. It just dies. But
Okay.
my kids, when they were both in high school, had bought me an orchid, which I was always told this is the hardest plant to keep alive.
I
Oh,
have
there we
one
go.
behind me.
Nice. Yeah, I see it there. So they gave me this one, and I have never babied it. I literally just put the ice cubes on it every Sunday. It never gets put away. It always sits in the window. The thing constantly, once it finishes blooming, we just leave it there. And it always, every year, like 2 or 3 times a year, has the most beautiful blooms. And that plant, it doesn't matter what stage of life it's in. Every time I look at it, it brings me so much joy. And I think it's partly because it's tied to my kids.
Yes,
But there's just, you start to notice all these little moments where you're like, ah, there it is. What do they call them? Glimmers throughout the day?
I think
I've
so.
heard
Yeah,
that
I've
term.
heard
Yeah, where you
differently.
just,
Yep.
yeah, you start to recognize joy differently, that it's in those little moments, those little pieces that you can pull in instead of waiting for those big things. And
Yes.
it changes the whole day. Like it's so lovely.
Yes. And that's so funny because you are actually talking about what I teach. I have my Joyful Five method, and it truly that's what it is. Our brains are actually wired to focus on the negative. It's that survival mechanism from when we were cavemen and women.
Yep.
And so when you kind of flip the script on your brain and you start to focus on joy and gratitude and things that are good, it does. You start to notice more of that. And what is it? The reticulated, oh, of course, the name escapes me now. Reticulated activating system,
Mhm.
I think, in your brain. Anyway, you start to see things. It's like when you buy a new car, you buy a red car, and then you see red cars everywhere. It's the same concept.
Totally.
And yeah, so it's so funny you mentioned that because, yeah, that's what I teach.
I love it. Good for you. That's such an important message. And I think it's just life-changing for people.
Yes.
but it can be really hard to recognize until you have somebody else there kind of helping you notice and bring it to your attention. So good for you. That is huge. That's amazing.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for bringing it up.
Yeah, that's good. That's fun that it worked out.
I know, so funny. That was not planned.
No, not at all.
Oh, so funny. Oh my gosh. Well, Angela, thank you. Oh my gosh, so much for being here today, for giving us your time, sharing your incredible story, and, just sharing your light with us today. It was such a pleasure talking with you. I really enjoyed this.
Oh, thank you. I really enjoyed it as well.
Oh, good. Thank you so much. And where can my listeners find you? Where are you on social media?
You bet I am. I'm on most channels. I would say the main channel that I use is Instagram, probably the easiest place to find me. And
Okay.
it's literally just at Angela_Porrelli is just the best place to find me. And then anything that I do is usually shows up in there. It's kind of a bit of everything.
Okay, perfect. So we will link that below. So to my listeners, go check out Angela's Instagram, go show her some love. And thanks for tuning in today. All right, that is going to wrap up Positively Joyful Productivity for today. Thank you for tuning in. And Angela, thank you again so much for being here with us today.
Thank you, Nicole.
Yeah.